And we're live.
Hey everybody, it's Dale Jr. here at the Bojangles Studio with Mike Davis, and we're doing Ask Jr. Andrew has fired it up, and so here we are. It's been a pretty good show so far, talking a lot about Father's Day and our experiences this past weekend, smuggling beer out on the beach, and the Cars Tour Dominion race, which was an exciting finish, and a little bit about NBC. NBC's firing off this weekend in Nashville. Excited to go back to work and be back in the booth. We've started our preparation to get ready, and all that's going really well. But go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, you kind of touched on NBC, and this first question comes from Kevin. Since that famous slide job call, your debut in the booth, have you noticed yourself change as a broadcaster from then to now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can't help it. You're gonna change a little bit here and there, and I'll be different this year in some way, shape, or form. I really liked my first year. I thought it was, it was a little bit tough because I didn't know all of the rules. I didn't know how things were done in the booth, and kind of learning how to manage even the language in broadcasting, like what your producer's telling you. There's all kinds of code words and shorthand, and trying to figure out what all these things mean and what's coming at you and what they're trying to accomplish. That's gotten a lot easier, and I think you get a little more polished, whether you want to or not, over the years, and so your cadence might change just slightly. But one of the things that I think I was trying to do for a long time was play-by-play, which is Rick's job. And I love play-by-play. I love what Rick does. I love calling the battles. I love talking about two guys driving, trying to pass each other. We get to do that a little bit, but I think I'm gonna lean a little bit more into being an analyst, right? And this is why a driver chose to do that. This is why what a driver was thinking in this moment. And try to work hard, prepare, spend a lot of time during the week just really trying to be on top of what I think is going to be going on. So that's it's a fun job, man. But nobody's here. There's no playbook. There's no there's no guidelines or, hey, here's what you need to do. You got to either prepare, do the work, or you're not going to be ready and not going to have yourself all the information you need in those moments when the race is happening. Because when the race is happening, man, you got to have it all up here in your head, exactly what you need to be thinking about. It's kind of fun. I'm nervous about it, but fun. It's a fun job, and I'm looking forward to getting back in there.
Yeah, the first broadcast at Nashville this weekend. You gave us tips on what to do on Broadway last week. This next question comes from Bev. Who's your favorite country music artist?
Whoa.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah. I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah. Well, for the longest time, I think Dwight Yoakam was at the top of the list. I was a big fan of his. I got to meet him at Fontana one year. He came out, and it was weird, man, because they said he was coming. I was super excited about that. Had never met him before, and when they said I was in my bus with Amy, and they say he was there, so I step out of the bus, and he's got his guitar, and he starts singing "Maybe I'll Be Fast as You."
Man.
And he's walking toward me, and I'm like, am I supposed to start singing? I don't know. So I did. We sang and danced a bit right there in the bus lot right before, a couple hours before the race. It was just an interesting thing. But he's Dwight Yoakam. He can do whatever he wants. Right?
Yeah.
And then we talked a bit, and he ended up playing. Was it my retirement party?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame party.
The Hall of Fame party, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. He played my Hall of Fame party, which was I'd never seen him play, right? Never heard him, and he sounds awesome, man.
Amazing.
It sounded
so good.
Yeah. And so that was awesome. So I'd say he's right up there at the top.
That's definitely cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that bus lot story.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I'm good friends with Tim Duggar, and so I love a lot of his music. To be honest with you, man, I mean, when I first got to know Tim, I thought, I was like, yeah, that's a good song. That's a good song. But probably the work that he's done in the last probably 5 years, it's as good as anything out there. And that's one of the interesting things I think about music. And I know there's a lot of people out there watching right now that know a band or a musician, and you're like, man, your stuff's good. How come you're not getting traction, right? And I feel that way with Tim. I mean, he's with Curb, and he's doing a lot, and he's out there, and people know him. But I'm like, man, when this song can be a top 10 song? Why is it not on the charts? It's good. I like it. I mean, I would pick it over all of these songs on the top 10. So it doesn't make much sense to me, but he's a good pal, and so I like to see him do good.
Kind of staying on theme with this, the next question's from Spencer. What kind of music did your dad listen to?
My dad listened to he was a big Delbert McClinton fan, which I never understood that. I've listened to some of Delbert McClinton's songs, and I just didn't really love it. But Dad seemed to like it for some reason. I remember him having a record collection in the basement of the lake house when we moved in 1981, and he had traditional Southern Meatloaf and Southern rock, Skinnerd, and all of those. Whatever was playing on, the rock radio in the late 70s and early 80s. He had all of those albums. But he liked Brooks and Dunn a bunch. And, gosh, I'm gonna get up from this table and think, damn, I should have said that one. But but he listened to that song Black Velvet. They played that at the banquet for him. One year, I believe he won the championship. Which was on traditional country radio for a while. He listened to quite a bit of country. Faith Hill, he was a big Faith Hill fan. So I think he got to meet her. He wore a Faith Hill T-shirt one time underneath his uniform at a race that she came to.
That's cool.
Yeah, she was singing the national anthem or something.
Yeah.
But yeah.
How'd he do, wearing the Faith Hill T-shirt? Was it
clue.
good luck?
No clue. It was so long ago.
Oh, man. Yeah. This next question coming from Mitch. This was the off week. We saw on social media a lot of the drivers were traveling to different places. Is there a go-to kind of vacation destination spot that you haven't quite been able to hit yet?
My sister was telling me Barbados is great. I like to go to new places. I want to go to Ireland. Speaking of Tim Duggar, he's been trying to get me to go to Ireland with him for a long time. He loves going there. I know that Steve Letarte and his family just recently went there and really enjoyed it this past couple weeks. So Ireland's probably moving up the list for me. I'd love to go to England. I've never been. My mom's family, the G name is an English name, and I'd love to go. There's a place in England called the G Cross. It's like an intersection where the G's sort of originated from, I suppose. I need to learn more about that. But so I want to go there. I did something sort of like that with the Earnhardts in Germany.
Right, yeah.
So I kind of want to do something similar with my mother's name and where they're from. And but I mean, I love going to a tropical place, resort-ish sort of place, man. It's hard to beat that. Me and my wife went to Cabo for 4 or 5 days over the past couple weeks. Had an incredible time. Went and I caught my first marlin. So I mean, it was it's hard to beat the beach.
Yep.
Yep.
It goes right back to that beach mountains conversation,
yeah,
right?
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you on Team Beach. Sorry, Mike.
Oh, we got to go here again.
We just got to take Mike to the right beach, and I think he'll change his mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Preferably one that doesn't have $1,000 fine attached to it. But we'll get to that. Listen to the earlier part of the podcast. You'll know what we mean by that.
Exactly. I think we got time for one more quick one. This is coming from John. What do the Monday competition meetings look like at Junior Motorsports and then even at Hendrick when you were a driver?
Well, we've got a new conference room. Kelly vacated her office and turned it into a big conference room for our meetings. It's a table with about 15 chairs, and it's full every time they have a comp meeting. The crew chiefs, drivers, shop foreman, our general manager, everybody's in there. The drivers will go over what they liked or didn't like about their cars. Crew chiefs will, have comments about some things that they might do differently or what they felt might have helped. They might break off individually into separate groups after that big meeting, and then re-watch the entire race from there from that track before. So I've walked into the conference room, and you'll see Josh Berry and T.J. Majors, Taylor, the crew chief, watching, with the engineer watching last year's race, and I'm like, golly, we never did that, right? I was, sitting there and watching the old race, and all, even if you'd ran well, you're just like, gosh, this was like 3 hours of the day. But they, it's helpful for them to understand what strategies might pop up. It's helpful for them not only to see how their race went the last time they ran there, but seeing how someone who won, how their race went, right? What did they do differently? And so I think it's nice to have that sort of refresh memory of what the racing is like there and where the lines were. I think when I get ready to run Bristol, you're going to go get in the sim and practice, but you're also going to watch a lot of video of qualifying, where people ran to get their fast laps, and how they worked, how the track changed throughout the race, where the cars were running at certain points in the race with the traction compound or whatever might be down on the racetrack. So there's a lot for the teams and drivers to go over, depending on the racetrack. For Nashville, they're certainly going to be paying attention to lines because of the treatment to the racetrack and whatever resin might be down, and how that affected qualifying, where drivers chose to race and run at certain parts of the day. So that's really important information they need to know. And I don't think the drivers would sit down and actually do that on their own if they weren't brought in and sit down with the spotters and the crew chiefs and go over that stuff together. The meetings for Hendrick Motorsports back in the day were thorough, but nothing like that. We'd sit down. Drivers would comment about what they thought their cars did, when it got better, when it got worse. The crew chiefs would remark on what they thought those changes were that the driver liked and didn't like. And one of my favorite parts of the Hendrick meetings back in the day were what we were seeing from the competition. So we'd have photographers in the garage and out on the racetrack taking pictures of the competition and seeing things on their cars that we're like, oh, look at this. It's a little triplet. There's a little arrow trick right here on this car. Look how they've got this mounted. Look how this is twisted. Look how they've chose to do this. And you'd sit in those meetings and they'd throw those pictures up on the screen, and you'd try to figure it out in your mind, like, what am I looking at? Where's the advantage? And you're trying to figure it out before the crew chief was going to tell you what it was, right? Before somebody was going to say, all right, this is what they're doing. And that was a lot of fun, and because then you'd get up from the meeting and go to grab your crew chief and go, are we going to do those things?
Yeah.
Let's do that, man. That looked cool. Let's are we doing it?
Yeah.
So it was funny because it reminds me, I was in a race at Talladega. Tony Jr. was the crew chief. I was behind Matt Kenseth, and his roof flap was opening. He's leading the race, and I'm behind him, and his roof flap was opening up, and it's knocking air off the rear spoiler. And I said to Tony Jr., I was like, hey, man, the roof flap on the 20 car in front of me is opening up, man. They figured it out a way to change the pressure to where it can lift at speed. And that's knocking air off the spoiler. And he said, you ought to see yours. I was like, oh, okay, I'll just keep my mouth shut. So I don't know. Those were fun days, man. But I don't know how much of that goes on these days because the cars are so hard to trick and twist and do anything really visual. But I'm sure there's still some conversations in those competition meetings about what they're seeing from the competition.
Yeah, I know we talk about creativity stories. I find that fascinating.
Yeah.
So that was a very interesting one you just brought up.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's a good place to end Ask Junior this week.
All right, y'all. I appreciate it. Ask Junior is always a lot of fun. Thank you, Andrew. Great questions by everybody sent in. We did have a great conversation about going out on the beach and some of the challenges on Father's Day, some of our experiences that we had. We talked a little bit about the Cars Tour race at Dominion and that fantastic finish, and obviously getting ready to go to Nashville this weekend. Get back to work, get back in the booth. I'm excited about that. I hope everybody is ready for NBC because we're excited to be able to bring the races to you. it's been a fascinating year. So many different storylines and things to talk about, and we're going to dive headfirst into it in just a few days. So we'll see you either across the airwaves or at the track somewhere throughout the rest of the season. Thank you, and I hope everybody had a great Father's Day weekend. We'll see you.
Awesome. We're out.
All right.